What's up, bitches? Welcome back to another episode of Positively Uncensored, your favorite reality TV and interview podcast. It's your host, Leah. Back to such a fun, delightful episode. You guys aren't going to be able to believe it because I manifested this. And today I'm sitting with Dawn and Cher from Smothered. And I'm just so excited to chat with them. Welcome to the show.
Very excited to be here.
Thank you. We're so excited to be here.
Now, I have to start with, they have their own podcast. It's called the Chattermouth Podcast. So they're podcast hosts as well. So if you haven't checked out their podcast, check out their podcast. I listened to it and it was really interesting. I listened to like quite a few episodes. It was like relationship advice combined with like sex, parenting, behind the scenes of the show. It was anything I could think of that I wanted to listen to.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you listened to it and that you enjoy it. It's a fun podcast, like with my mom and something we can like, it's our moment to just like sit down and talk about like everything going on in our life. And like, she's giving me her motherly advice. I'm keeping her young with the things going on in today's world. So it's really a fun podcast.
It's our special time together. I named it Chattermouth because we chatter all the time.
And because on the show, one thing people always talk about is our really big smile and having like big teeth, big mouth. It's we're like, well, I guess we're just like chattermouths and we're just going to go along with like the big mouth, big chattermouths. We are always talking.
It's part of why I liked you guys so much because first of all, like I've always gotten told that I have a huge smile and huge teeth. And I've also been told that I'm a chattermouth. Like ever since I was a kid on report cards, it was like talks too much in class. Like she like has a lot to say and that's my personality as well. So podcast host is fitting.
Exactly. I was going to say, that's why we're all podcast hosts here.
Exactly. And also just to throw this out there, you guys are also authors. You've written your own book. I see it right there, which is perfect because I was going to talk about it. So it's called A Bond That Lasts Forever. And it's about your relationship as mother-daughter and also kind of telling people how to have a closer relationship. Is that was my understanding.
Yes, that's right. And we actually wrote the book before season.
I lost you.
So it was very fun. That was actually one of the scenes they did show our like book release party. They filmed it. Unfortunately, it only aired in other countries. There's actually like certain like special clips that get to air in other countries around the world. So that I think did air somewhere else, but not here in America, which was unfortunate. But
we wanted to show there's always ups and downs, but as long as you make that bond and have your own special bond, just create your own special bond with your daughter or son.
Yeah. And it shows like pictures of us throughout our life and just like as we got older and like how we've gotten into arguments, we do fight too, but how we overcome them and become as close as we are now.
Really interesting facts about it. Like the New York Times had like a very interesting article about some of like the like hot moments of the book. And I won't share them and ruin it. So people will have to read, but some pretty like risque moments that made me laugh when you were 14 and like your first experience. So read the book. Find out for yourself. It was get the book too, by the way, but I just found out about it last night because like you said, they didn't air that in the US. Like I so wish that we had gotten to see that moment.
Yes. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. So actually, I also watched part of your Sweet 16 as well and both of your reactions to it. You grew up in Florida, correct?
Yes, we did.
Okay. So, and we were kind of chatting about this before, but do any of you have family members in New York? Or Dawn, were you ever in New York?
Oh no, I grew up in New York. That's why I have this accent that I can't get rid of. I wish I could. I don't hear it, and I think it's with me forever. But yes, I grew up in New York. But my husband and I always, when we took vacation and traveled, we always went to a warm climate. So we loved Florida because we felt it's only like 2.5 hours by plane to get to Florida from New York. So we said, why not like live here and bring up our family here? Then in the cold and in the wintertime, everyone's indoors all the time. Well, we could, the boys can do soccer and we could be outside all the time. So Cher was actually born in Florida. She's a real Floridian.
Yeah.
Oh, cute.
She's always trying to lose her accent, though.
Yes.
She's been here for like 30 years. No,
Yes.
33 years, I guess, since I was born. And she still has this very strong accent. And her name's Dawn, but she'll say like Dawn, and she'll try to write, she'll go to Starbucks and she'll say like, my name's Dawn, and they're always spelling it like D-O-N. Like she's trying so hard to change.
I try so hard. My name is so hard for me because I'm trying to go Dawn.
But how do you say her name?
It's really Dawn.
Dawn. Yes.
Dawn.
Ask that because I'm in Jersey, and so we spend time in New York as well, but everybody around here sounds like that. So when me and my boyfriend were initially watching the show, he was like, I don't care if this says that they're located in Florida. Somebody grew up in New York. Like somebody had to have. So I was dying to ask. What about your husband, Don? Where is he from? Mason.
He's from Long Island, but he doesn't have that accent like me. I grew up in Brooklyn, so maybe that's why. I don't know.
That could be the difference. So that was my next question. So you guys are very similar, and both of your husbands are actually doctors. So they sort of touch on what Jared's profession is, but we don't really get to hear. His name is Mason, correct? Just to make sure.
My husband, yes, Mason.
Okay, good. Is it all right that I call him that, or would you prefer doctor? Okay. Okay, so I want to find out what type of doctors Mason and Jared are.
Mason's an internal medicine physician, which means he treats patients that are 18 till death.
But now he's retired.
But yeah,
retired. We saw that. Yes.
Now he's retired. Happily retired.
Very happily retired.
And well, not fully retired. I put him to work all the time at my house, so he has a new job.
It's very handy. So he comes over and he fixes everything that she needs.
Yes, which is so nice now that I live close. But my husband is a plastic surgeon.
Okay, cool. I sort of thought so because I did find his YouTube channel, but I wasn't sure if that's like all he did because he also mentioned that he took OB on the show at some point. So I wasn't sure if that was like standard for a residency, which I would not be familiar with because that's too hard for me anyways.
Right. So he's so he did his residency in plastic surgery, but he went through all the different rotations throughout. So he's learned a lot, but he also specialized in hand and reconstructive surgery as well. So after we were living in New York for 6 years, and then we moved to Miami for a year, and now we are finally moved back to Tampa right near my mom, which is so nice. I'm
so excited for you.
Yes,
does Grant live in Florida as well?
Yes, he
Your
does.
brother?
He lives in the Miami area.
So he was living in New York when we filmed the show, which was nice because he was able to be a part of our life very much. But then we moved to Miami and he followed suit, and he actually moved to the same building as us. We were like neighbors. It was so fun. Yes. But then Jared got offered this position here near my mom, and I was like, we can't pass this up. So our goal is to get Grant over here one day soon.
Can't help but just want to copy you. I'd be like, get your own identity a little. Just kidding. I love that.
He loves the weather. He loves the weather because he loves to run and be outdoors.
Yeah,
and he's a doctor as well, correct?
Yes. Yeah. He's an emergency room physician.
Okay. Wow. So if anything ever happens to anybody, like God forbid, like you guys are in great hands and your family alone.
Right.
Well, it can get a little difficult because everyone has an opinion. So it's really fun.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And I can also imagine it can get a little hard at like family functions when everybody comes to eat everybody for just different reasons. It's like, oh, we have been sick lately. What do you think about that? Everyone wants advice. So what does your family, like even prior to the show, what do they think of your like close dynamic? What have they always said about your relationship?
What do you think?
I think they just go with it,
Yeah, I think that my mom has always been like my best friend, We've always been close and we've always looked alike. Like, even if we're not dressing alike, like we still look similar. So,
yes.
I don't think we realized it was anything that like bizarre, weird until like the show came out and people were like, whoa, you're like too much, But before that, it didn't like faze us. Like we didn't realize that was such a thing.
actually, when we were filming for the show at the beginning, we didn't even know what the name of the show was going to be. We thought it was for best friends, mothers and daughters that are best friends. And then they said the show was Smothered. And we said, are we really that smothered?
Yeah. Like, why? What are we gonna be out today? Like, what is this? Because that's what the casting notice was. It was like mothers and daughters who are best friends. Like, well, my mom's my best friend. Right. And then all of a sudden it's called like Smothered. And you're like, you gotta stay, like, we took a step back, like, like, what did we sign up for?
So when you got, I had that planned next because I was actually, that's what I thought. I had the impression, after as much as I've spoken with reality TV people, that it was probably pitched like, hey, we want mothers and daughters who are best friends. Like, we want mothers and daughters who are very close. Because of the premise of the show they were actually running, do you feel like they edited every duo, but specifically yours, to like fit that and shape that?
That's a great question. I mean, this show isn't called Mothers and Daughters Who Are Best Friends, or it would show like the really fun side of having a mom.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's called Smothered for a reason, because that's like what they want to show. So I think there was a lot of happy times that like we didn't get to show. For example, like having a podcast, we're like, you should show that because this is something we really do together, and like we're best friends, we have podcasts, and they're like, there's no drama in that. So like,
yes,
that's not shown. So there's like, you know, there's so much that you can film, but you only have a few minutes of airtime. So you're going to show the smothering parts, you know.
And I can only imagine that the conversations where you two are just calling each other on an afternoon to see what each other's doing is probably not shown. You know what I mean? Like, hey, what are you doing? What do you have going on today? They want to see you guys asking like very specific questions, like I said, to sort of support that narrative of being clingy or smothering or too close. Were you excited that you would do the show once they said what the show name was?
We were already filming. It wasn't until I think season 1 completed, I think, that we finished filming, that we're like, oh, you know. And it's interesting because for us, we were already on it. We had no idea any of this. But we always think it's kind of interesting for like season 5 now, for like the new cast members, like they're applying knowing it's called Smothered. I always think that's interesting. I'm like, wow, like we were already just put on it.
Yes,
you know?
we didn't know.
I don't know if I would have applied for the name knowing Smothered, because we don't see ourselves as smothered. We don't see that side. Other people see it, and it comes out, and now we realize like, oh, maybe we are smothered. Maybe there is something.
Right.
But we think it's in a good way.
Yeah, we think it's horrible.
And like I've said, there's such a stark contrast with sharing moments with your mom that you feel comfortable bringing up on your own versus your mom sort of like ruling over your life. And I think we kind of only got to see this this idea that like you are always like catering to Dawn's feelings and you couldn't have any of your own secrets. But I don't think that that's the reality, or I don't think you would be as close as you are if you felt that way.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting. In regards to season 1 through 4, did you have a favorite season?
To me, season
cut out just for a second.
Was on national TV, and this was true. She actually told me that she was pregnant. And that I was so shocked, and my voice went up like a million octaves. I didn't even realize that, but that was the most exciting, hot feeling moment ever. And I love playing that back because I really get to relive that again. And it was just so special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also think season 1, watch that, we cry. Like, can't help it. Like, tears every time.
To say season 1 had me crying a couple of times. It was when you told your mom, and then also because like you give her the cup and she's like, oh, I love gifts, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, what kind of gift is this? Like, this is huge.
Yes.
And then also the birth of Belle. I mean, that was just like, I mean, no, like, I'm sorry, but we're going to make the comparison. You're kind of like Kourtney Kardashian. Like, that was iconic. That was so iconic. So
that's like one of my favorite things about being on this show is the fact that I can like look back and get to rewatch like my whole like birth thing. Like I get to see, you know, the moment I told my mom I was having a baby to the moment I found out it was going to be a girl to the moment I'm like actually giving birth. Like it was hard to rewatch myself like being so sick on camera and vomiting, but also so special to know like, wow, like I have these memories and I can show, you know, this is just amazing. So season 1 was my favorite.
And for someone who doesn't have children yet, it was really beautiful to watch you and like kind of understand what the process is like how much your mom was there for you and like teaching you different things. Like it was very informative too. Like, you know, like I'm almost 30. I'm not sure if I'll have children, but I think I would like to someday. So it was like watching you walk around New York City with your flat sandals with no back on it, like, and your dress, like, I'll just never get over. Like, that was so, and like, and now that I've been to the city a lot, I'm like, do you think Cher had to walk to the hospital? Because, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like a block, like, it'll be fine. And then halfway there, it's like, whoa. Whoa.
Oh my gosh.
But did you guys get in a taxi ever, or what happened?
Oh my gosh, yeah, that was well. You know, my mom gave birth in a car, so she also didn't want me going in a car. She's like, if you go in a car, you're gonna, you know, we're twins. You're gonna end up giving birth in the car too. So afraid of that.
Never get over that story. My boyfriend. So I will preface with I get a little bit, not a little bit. I get nauseated and pass out sometimes during birth stories, which is why I'm like, I don't know if I'll personally have children. I'm going to therapy to get over that. But my boyfriend pauses the television and turns around. He's like, Dawn's husband bit the cord. I'm like, what? I said, rewind it. What? And I've never heard a more fascinating story. Like in the car, do you remember? Like, what was that? What was that experience like?
Like it was yesterday. First of all,
we don't want her to pass out.
It was with Grant. So my first son was a long delivery, 24 hours of hard labor. And then I was pregnant with Grant. And with Grant, he was a week early. My first son was 2 weeks late. I didn't expect it. We're driving to the hospital. I had to get my in-laws to babysit my first son before we could leave. And we're driving to the hospital and we're in New York and we're on the parkway. And Mason, my husband, puts his hands by the and feels the crown of the head down there, and he goes, "Don't push!" And one contraction, and I scream, "The head's between my legs!" So we had to pull off of the side of the road. Where's a police officer when you want them? Never when you want them. Well, one leg in the car, one leg out the car. And we had no choice. He had to deliver the rest of the baby, you know, like really had no choice. So he delivered. Luckily, thank God the cord wasn't around the neck. And then what do you do? So he bit the cord and I held it. And then I held the baby.
Oh my God.
I held it tight. He told, hold it tight. As we get to the hospital, one more contraction came. The placenta came out because we have to check the placenta.
Wow.
The day before, he put it in the McDonald's bag that was in the back of the car.
Oh my goodness.
Hospital with Grant on me. Mason's all full of blood. He goes into the emergency room and he goes, "My wife just gave birth in the car." And then everybody went screaming and everyone came running to
the news after this. Like, this feels like a story in the 90s where they would be like, take your picture for the paper.
Right. It should have been. No, it wasn't that. But it was just so, unbelievable. Wow. And actually, the obstetrician that delivered the baby, he was so upset because he delivered the first. He was a friend of the family and he was all ready to deliver.
Oh my gosh. He was excited. He was clocked in, gloved up. He's like, what?
So when I had my first pain with Cher, I had to get to that hospital fast.
Not taking any chances.
Right.
So that was with Grant. And since his birth was so unpredictable, has he been unpredictable throughout his life following that?
Definitely. Yes. He fits that.
That's so funny. That's so funny. Yes.
Like it has to, like, I'm like, if you come into the world that way, I just don't see how you would just, go with the flow or exist. Like you would always be doing something people don't expect.
Right.
So this is the first of all, thank you so much for sharing that. That's absolutely one of the most insane stories I've ever heard, ever.
It is.
And it is. And it's beautiful too. I mean, like you can't be more involved than that. That was like a huge, call it a trauma bond potentially, but that was a huge bonding moment for the two of you as well. The three of you. Yes. I'm sorry, that totally like got me sidetracked because that was so like, I know where I'm going. I didn't know that you had another older brother. What is his name?
Well, he prefers to stay off of
okay.
out of the spotlight.
That's what I was going to ask next. I was going to say, so he doesn't want anything to do with the show.
We're all just as close. He is just as close to the family, and people don't know that, but we have to respect his wishes.
Absolutely.
On camera, and people a lot of times will comment on her like, you play favorites, and if anything, like she's just trying so hard.
No, I'm just respecting him, and this is his wish. He's a physician.
Absolutely.
He just doesn't want it.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. And I feel like it's a testament. I feel like you strike me as the type of person, Dawn, that has like a very equal relationship with your children. I don't really get favoritism as much as I get very caring on every single one.
Thank you. Actually, they always try to have me say on the show is share your favorite, but no, they're all my favorites. I love each one equally, but each one is different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's part
absolutely
of like when you interview her, they'd always try to get her to say like,
right.
So shares your. So you're telling me about your favorite daughter.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, well, no. Yeah. And you hear that a lot on Smothered, where there's like other moms who will, talk about their favorite child. But no.
Yes.
We're very close, but she has this closest with everyone. And I think that's healthiest, honestly, for the children. Like I feel that's better. Like I wouldn't want to be a favorite. Like
absolutely. That would be a completely odd dynamic to navigate. Thank you for sharing that. That's really interesting. I'm glad to know that there's like the three of you. You guys have always been close. And you're right, going back for a second, you two have always looked alike, like even at the old photos. And it's like, as you guys age, you just like age with each other. Like it's almost like, and like it's almost like your features just like still stay on that same line. I've never seen a mother-daughter do like,
it's very as we get older, I think we even look more and more alike. I mean, I love it, but not only do we look alike, we're very, very similar, really similar. We think alike. We have the same taste in things.
And we can like jump from conversation to conversation. My dad will be like, slow down, wait, what? And she's always like, oh no, Cher gets where I'm going.
Yeah, exactly.
To the next conversation. Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah. And we really do feel for each other. Like
I think we froze.
So we actually feel for each other. Like if I get hurt, or if right before, like one time I had a car accident, and she dreamt about it right before it happened.
And I tried to warn her, don't drive in this. We talk about this in our book, but I told her like, don't drive to this specific place tomorrow. And she's like, don't worry, it's Christmas, no one's gonna be driving on the road. And so she didn't, but the day after she did, and she got in a car accident right where I told her. I told her, don't, you're gonna get hit from behind, you're gonna have whiplash. And that's exactly what happened.
It's very weird.
I believe this 100%. I believe in the feelings. I believe in the connection. And also, I'll never get over, I think her name was Penelope, the psychic that you guys go to.
Yes.
Like, she's uncanny. She predicted you moving, your baby, a unique name. I mean, anything else? Like, that was like so nuts.
A year before I was on Smothered, she predicted I was going to be on a show on TLC. And I didn't even know, like, it was crazy because we didn't even know Smothered when we got cast was going to be on TLC. Like, it was so crazy. She wrote it down, and I still have the paper today that says, like, she wrote TLC and circled it. And it was like, it's crazy. Crazy.
You better gatekeep Penelope's information because like she's onto something and I'm like, let me get Penelope's number. I want to find out what's in store.
You know what? She's in New York. You should totally go see her one day.
Oh, yes, you should.
I'm going to Penelope. That's actually so up my alley. So I'm going to gatekeep it. I'll gatekeep Penelope. I want to see her. I'm going to talk a little bit about the show now. Like I'm going to dive a little bit into that. So we just talked about seeing Penelope and staying on topic with like the start of your pregnancy. I'm going to start like at the beginning of the show. When you kept your pregnancy a secret, first of all, how hard were those 7 weeks where you kept it a secret?
It was really hard. I wanted to tell her so much, but she had no idea that I was pregnant or even trying to get pregnant or anything. So it wasn't like she was asking how are things going or anything like that because she had no idea. But I was just so excited to tell her. And I really wanted to tell my mom in person that I was having a baby instead of it's the first baby. It's so exciting. And so telling her on the phone just wouldn't be the same. I think she was a little upset that I kept it for 7 weeks, but there was, it's nothing like being together in person and getting to tell such like special news.
But I understood why she wanted to do it. She wanted my expression. She wanted to be with me at the time.
Yeah.
I don't know how she kept that secret.
I know. It's like when you have like $1 burning a hole in your pocket. It's like, wait, I really want to tell you this.
Exactly.
Now, that's like one thing that I feel like that was one of my first things where I'm like, so the show feels like they manipulated that situation a little bit because the narrative that we watched it in was like you were protecting your mom's feelings and you were very worried that a secret would like be the end all be all for your relationship. But really, I feel like you were so like itching to tell her, like this was your exciting news, like your pregnancy. Do you feel like watching it, like you could, like you saw that too and you wish they had more of the authentic, what was going on?
It's so funny, I should rewatch season.
We froze for just a second.
I don't remember what even happened.
I think that, you know what it was? I think that she wanted to tell me so badly because we really don't keep secrets from each other. So she was so torn. Should she tell me on the phone? Shouldn't she? But she knew in her heart she wanted to be with me when she told me.
But also Jared wanted us to, like, on the thing to all tell our family together at the same time. He didn't want me to keep it from her. He just wanted us to all, like, everyone, his mom find out and my mom finds out. But I knew, like, I needed that special moment. Like, this is a once in a lifetime thing that's going to happen. Like, it's your first pregnancy and it's so special. And so, like, I had to tell her.
First of all, did anybody figure out that you already knew? Because your reaction was so funny. Like everybody's finding out at dinner and you're like a little bit quiet, like watching everybody else's reaction. And I was like, this is so cute. This is so me.
Right. But that's so me because I don't like to lie. I don't want to tell the secret.
Same.
And they're asking me, but I don't want to say I didn't know, but yet I didn't want to say I knew. So I really didn't know how to answer.
Like, no. Right. I would have done the same thing. It's like I don't want to lie. I'm not a liar. I don't like to lie. I feel the same way. When Jared watched it back, was he a little salty? Like how did he feel that like ultimately we might have went out.
Oh God.
Did it go out salty when he watched it back? Like what did he think? When she found out like maybe 10 minutes before?
Yeah, I think by the time he watched it back, he already knew that. By the time we watched it, he knew that I like did tell her. Yes. He was like, told her. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah,
I had to.
Like, I can't. I don't think it. So he didn't have like it's not like a relationship issue. It wasn't like a problem with Jared. It was just like your right to tell your mom about your pregnancy. Yeah, I agree. That's how I perceived that. And they tried to make it a point that like no secret was okay, but I feel like you guys definitely have secrets that you keep with one another and like discernment. Do you look back now and feel like there are some things that you don't share, or is it like absolutely everything?
What do you mean with each other?
Yeah, like I guess it would be odd to think of something I wouldn't share with my mom, but like for example, to share. Like, you know how if you get in an argument with someone and then you tell your mom, and then like sort of your mom will have a bad taste about that person forever with you.
Yes.
It's like you can forgive them, but mom, that person's out. So like some stuff do you like keep in and you're like, if I tell her, like that's not going to be great.
Well, if I admit that right now, I don't feel like me. So I tell her everything.
But you know, it's so fair because I just know my mom, and she's protective. She's great. She wants to know everything. But I do have a reactive personality sometimes, or I'm sensitive. Like something will hurt my feelings. And if I told her right away and then got over it 10 minutes later, she'd be like, but wait, don't you remember when Jessica said this to you? That was really rude. And I'm like, oh, mom, we're over that.
I think that your mom and my mom will be best friends.
So true. I don't forget. It's terrible. I don't forget because I'm very protective of her and I want her to be
yes.
It was bad. Yeah. But she forgets everything. She's like, she just moves on, Cher. She's wonderful with that.
No, we just did a TikTok recently with that because it's so true to our life. So because if I tell her something like someone was not nice, then she holds that grudge towards that person.
Yes.
And I'm like, you know, we talk about it, we move on, it's over. And she's like,
no, because then I say something not good about that person.
So yeah. So
like, you know, like maybe not anymore. That's really cute to hear. My mom and you guys would get along very well.
Definitely.
So I'm going to go to the next show incident. So I'm doing like some hot topics that everyone talked about. So people talked about pregnancy. Now we're going to talk about the Lamaze class, because I feel like that was a moment everyone was like, is Dawn overstepping? Isn't she? And it was sort of framed to viewers like it was about being relatable to each other and completely similar. But I do think there's nuance to just wanting Cher to be aware of like all her options. So what do you think it was more about to you?
To me, it really I wanted her to see all her options. I did the Lamaze and it really helped me. I never had an epidural, so it really helped me get through with it. I feel bad that the audience thought them overstepping, but when you love someone so much, and you know, I love my daughter, I just want the best for her. Of course, ultimately it's her decision, but if she was going to try to do it naturally, at least she would have the tools to do it naturally.
Absolutely. And I feel like that's what they left out. You know what I mean? Because that attitude and that intention was there for me watching. I could just see that was out of love. And that was like, no, wait, like on the if come that you change your mind, you don't want to show up to the hospital unprepared. So I actually enjoyed that moment. And I was kind of really shocked that the audience didn't either. Like, I was like, wait, like what's wrong? Like, what's wrong, everybody? So I'm glad to hear that. And Jared ultimately, like, obviously he felt a little bit left out, but like, did you guys ever go to a Lamaze class together afterwards, or what happened in that situation?
We did take a class together afterwards as well. He was
okay,
in
good
work, and I think it wasn't like something where I couldn't take another class with him. You know, she was hoping I would continue with him. She just wanted to take me my first one to open up my eyes and see that there's options, and it's up to you in the end to decide, but at least know. I think she also was just worried about the epidural, just a mom, you know, they show it as her wanting to be like, you know, me to be like her, but in reality, she wanted me to like, she was nervous about the epidural. There's complications that can happen. She knows someone who's had terrible complications. So she was concerned. So she just wanted me to at least have the tools if I decide. So she took me just to show me, because at first I was closed off. Jared was closed off. Jared was on my side. He said, well, if Cher wants to get an epidural, she's getting the epidural. Like, stop butting in. But I was just closed off. And so she just wanted to show me, like, listen, if you choose not to get an epidural, or if baby just comes on, like Grant did, like her son, you can't, don't have time to get to the hospital, you don't have time to get an epidural, then here's the tools. And they didn't show that part of it, that it came really from a place of love to show me. And in the end, she was there to, you know, would be there to support me no matter what. So. And she was.
I saw right behind the curtain what's going on. Like the
anesthesiologist was going to do a good job, you know.
I get it.
complications.
And yeah, and I was so glad that she was there. Another thing that they, oh, did we freeze or? Oh no.
Just for a second, we're back.
Another thing that they didn't, they showed, which this is one thing I didn't love the cut of, during the actual like birthing part where I was at home laboring at home for many hours, they showed my mom always there. And a lot of people were like, writing in like, oh, she's taking over, and, the laboring at home that my mom is taking over and she needs to butt out. This is between her and her husband. But honestly, and Jared agrees with me on this one, like, thank God that my mom was there. Jared had just worked an overnight shift. He was exhausted.
Totally.
Like, he was so tired that day.
He was falling asleep.
Yeah, he was so tired. And so it showed my mom helping me and not as much him. And he was helping too, but he was just so exhausted because he just worked like 24-hour shift. He was so tired. He couldn't be there. So the edit showed her overstepping, but really she was stepping in where it was needed.
Absolutely.
That it didn't. Yeah, we got to the hospital, and as soon as I was in, Jared was snoring. So he was so tired.
They didn't show that.
But then he woke up for the birth and everything. But he had to get a quick 20-minute nap in. But I was dying. He did. So
I feel like they just
exactly. And he was a wonderful support system.
Absolutely.
But so is she. And I was just lucky to have both. That's for sure.
Definitely. I would not want to there because she knows how I get. She knows my pain tolerance. She knows if I say something really rude that it's like my mom is still going to love me. Whereas, maybe that was kind of curt to say to my husband or something. Yes.
Exactly. It's so true. It's like whenever you're in pain, for some reason you just you need your mom no matter how old you get,
I still wish my mom would set up my doctor's appointments for me, and I'm 29 and I'm like, Mom, do you remember the good old days though, where you would just be on top of it all? That's what I miss. One of my favorite scenes, well, it was one of my favorites, was the lingerie scene where you guys were going through all of the lingerie. And first of all, I was inspired to update my collection because Dawn, you have such good lingerie. I was like, do they not make some like this anymore? I'll see Nasty Gal or Fashion Nova's lingerie, and I'm like, it's not doing it for me the way that was.
I'm married over 40 years, and I really believe you have to always date your husband and keep the spice going. So I always tell her you have to keep the spice up. We're very close and we could talk about anything, and you can't let it get stale. You really can't.
And to be honest, before I saw the online reaction, I really loved the idea of kind of softening up your husband first, a nice weekend, sultry, some intimacy, and then ask so what if we moved, potentially, what would you think? I didn't see anything wrong with it. It's something I would do. I'm going to be honest. I would do that 100%, wine and dine, and then ask a question. Yes. But what did Jared think? Because I know that this was something that he was not mad at, but he was a little bit annoyed. He was like, did I just get manipulated a little bit?
Yeah, I think he didn't love watching that part back, but
okay, that was not a favorite.
The plan behind the plan,
I
but
think if people,
we love our date nights, and thanks to her, we can have them now.
People heard the reality of a plan behind a plan for all situations. I do think that would be the reality. You know what I mean? I mean, men always. If I get flowers impromptu brought home or extra attention, while I know that this is good, I'm also wondering what's happening. What are you softening me up for? Which family member's coming to stay with us? What's happening?
Yeah.
So I think everybody does a little bit of greasing the wheel before they try to go all out.
Right.
When did you actually move to Florida? What year?
Last year, I guess.
Through the fellowship.
Yes, so I moved so last year, 2022 to 2023. Right. I was in Miami from New York, and then I just moved. This past July, I just moved to Tampa near my mom.
They moved to Miami first because he was doing his fellowship, which was a 1-year fellowship.
Right, which is when we were close to Jared's parents. We were in South Florida near his family for the fellowship. And then he had to apply and start getting a job. And then the job took us here.
So how far, since I'm not from Florida, how far is Tampa from Miami? Like how far are you guys?
So 4.5.
Yeah, it's like 4.5 hours from
Oh, wow.
Miami.
Okay.
Then, yeah, I think, like 4.5 hours.
Fly, or is that unreasonable to fly within the same state?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. When you fly, it's only 45 minutes.
So easy.
Oh, love. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do. I'd be like, well, yeah, come on the plane.
Yes.
So what ended up happening? Because when we go to the end of season 4, we saw that there was a little tension over whether to buy or rent a house. What did you ultimately decide to do?
The year that I was in Miami, we ended up renting. So this is the year you guys didn't get to see. So the year no one got to see, we ended up renting for a year in Miami. And that was the best decision. And that was like a big controversy between the families, was deciding, should we buy right now? Should we put down roots or should we wait? And it's a good thing we waited, because if we did buy, we would have kind of been stuck, because he didn't find a job out there. He found a job in this area. So luckily we did only rent. And so then we moved here, and now we just bought our first home together.
I'm glad things worked out. Like, as a viewer, I'm not involved in any way. So I'm like, obviously you should rent. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to pay out of pocket and then have to relocate, resell the house.
Right.
Let's go to the pool scene, because that's where things came to a head, is like pretty much there. Was that, first of all, directed by producers, or was that like a genuine reaction from Jared's mother?
It was a genuine reaction. Okay. She was upset that I was asserting myself. And I feel bad that the audience felt that I was manipulating the situation. I never feel like I'm trying to manipulate a situation. I'm really not. I was just really felt in my heart that the best decision, being that it was only 1 year, was to rent. And then if you want to buy a house here and you find a job here, that's great. And I just felt bad that it was taken upon everybody thinking that I'm just manipulating the situation.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people didn't see her side. They're like, but out of it. But we were kind of being told, like, his family was like, you should buy, because like they wanted us to be here, and his aunt was the realtor, and it would just be so easy, you know. They're like, and then you can use it for real estate, but you know, we're just out of residency here, like we don't have, you know, we're not ready for that. And so you know, she was like, you should wait. She felt like we were getting like kind of sold on this whole idea of like living there, but she's like, that's great. If you want to live there, that's okay. But you don't know where your job is going to be. You don't know if you'll get a job down there. And so she was getting very powerful in her opinion. And I think just all day. And it was just like, she was just like, that's it. And I don't think the producers even like realized it was happening. So they didn't get the whole thing. So I think a lot of people were like, was it staged? Was it not?
Right.
Because but maybe the angles or something.
Right, they didn't get it because it happened so quickly.
It happened so fast.
It did happen quickly. Yeah. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I was filming it, and her aunt, who's the realtor, was saying, "Oh, look how beautiful it is." That drove me. That's when I kind of lost it, because they said all of Florida is beautiful. Like, be real, you know, you're the aunt. Be real and just say the truth. Don't just say, "Oh, it's just so beautiful here because it's Florida," you know. So I just was strongly to not put all your money in one basket. You know, like, feel it out first and see, and then. But it was taken. It was sorry that it was taken so manipulative. I just was,
No, you know what? I completely understand that, because I was going to point out that, and this is no like shade or anything towards Jared's family, because I'm sure they are great as well. But watching it was a little bit interesting to see that they were being just as, like, quote, overbearing, because their opinion was said very strongly, you know, like they wanted you guys to buy. And to hear that extra layer of the realtor being family, it's like that does add a pressure. So your mom was really your voice, because she also mentioned too, you forgive pretty easily and move on from things pretty easily. So I would imagine that sometimes, like, maybe you're very polite, or maybe you don't say as boisterous or as loud as another person would. this is not okay. I'm not sure yet, or give me a minute. And so she was like seeing that and stepping in to say, stop berating them with ideas. Like, let them have a minute as a couple to figure out if this even makes sense.
Right. Exactly.
That's what I felt from that. Yes.
Yeah.
Especially with the added context.
Yes. Definitely.
Yes.
How long did things take to repair from that? Was it pretty immediate? Like what, because she comes to the party and she was kind of like, I didn't know that I was going to have to apologize to come here, but she does apologize. But after, were things awkward or tense between families?
For a little bit, it was. I think they just, she kind of holds a grudge.
Right.
She was holding a grudge, but they're, they're.
But I always want family to be family. So
yes.
I even though I do kind of hold grudges, I wanted it to move on also.
Absolutely.
And we're all in a good place now.
Yes.
So that's good.
That's what I was going to ask next. I was going to ask,
yes,
if you guys are all in a good place and if you guys see each other frequently, because the other issue that she kind of came to a head was Jared's mom was like, well, we want to see them too. And every time we want to see them, you guys are together. So is it more equal now? Do they feel better about that?
Yeah, I think things have been really nice because, my parents are so helpful. They're like so helpful. They help with my daughter and they help with like the house and everything, which is so nice. But his family comes down and visits. Like they were there here this past weekend, which was really nice. So we got to see them. So it's been a really good balance, and we're kind of like working to figure all of that out. So I think we have.
I think that's
really
good.
Not that far from them. 4.5 hours or a 45-minute plane ride is nothing.
I'm 2 states away from my family, so like distance is distance, but you can make time to see one another, and it's still just as healing and therapeutic to all get together.
Yes. Right. And I think, like I was saying, my mom is like very helpful with my daughter and having, a child. So being that, like being able to have her around my child it's been very helpful for me because I didn't have as much help when I was living in Miami or when I was in New York. I didn't have that help as much. So for me, this has been a really great experience being able to be on this coast right now and be able to have that help. Because when you're raising a child, it takes a village. And now like, I feel like I have that village, which is really nice. And I love Jared's parents too. When they come to visit, it's always like so wonderful. But just being able to have that more often has been really great.
Because then like built-in childcare, built-in advice, built-in help. Yeah. I mean, it's your mom. Everybody wants to be close to their mom, right. If they can be, people would like to. So jumping to why you guys stopped filming, was that incident sort of like, okay, it's a deal breaker, or were you guys at the end of contracts? What made you guys not want to return for season 5?
Yeah. Well, every year you get a new contract. So it's not the contract thing. I think they were just going in a different direction than what we were ready to go in. Mm-hmm. So
I can see it's a little bit more extreme now. It has like a lot of extreme dynamic duos, which is kind of why I stopped watching a little bit. I only watched you guys, and there's one other like mother-daughter duo. I think it's Angelica and Sun Hee, because I was just fascinated. Like I was like, this is so much to absorb. But you guys are the only ones who I really watched, and I kind of skipped through anyways because it wasn't relatable. It was uncomfortable, and I felt like your relationship was very relatable and like genuine.
Yeah.
No shade any other Smothered cast. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. What did you learn from the show before we get off of there? What did you guys learn from your experience in watching yourselves back?
Ooh, that's a great question. Did you have a
I live by a saying, and by this saying, I believe, like I always say it, life is not about how much breaths you take, but the moments that take your breath away. And I believe make memories, just make the memories, and we could look back, and these are just more memories, look back at it, just like we were able to look back at the pregnancy and Belle being born. And
but did you learn anything about yourself from the show?
Did I learn anything?
I like that answer though, too. That's a reflection aspect. Like, first of all, you can watch things back. That's huge. So that's one element.
That's a positive way to look at it.
Absolutely. That's a positive way. It's like a memory.
Like, I guess I feel like I never felt that we're so smothering. I love our relationship and I'm happy within myself with our relationship. And I guess that's the most important thing. If you're happy,
yes.
And what I really wanted to show that other mothers and daughters can create their own bond. It doesn't have to be like ours, but have your own special connection. And I think we got that through with a lot of people. I hope we did.
Yeah, I think
you
so.
did too.
I think that a lot of moms and daughters have reconnected, hopefully, at least since watching the show, and been like, oh, maybe I kind of have more of a friendship with my mom also. And it's funny because like the show is smothering, and I think something is funny. I feel like we're more smothering even now than ever before, but in a positive way. Like I see my mom way more now than I did when I was living in New York, but like in a great way. Like she's really the person I can lean on, and she gives me her opinion and her advice, but she also respects me to kind of like do my own thing. Like we're very, very close. Very close. Very, very close. To the extreme close. So I get why we're on the show. But it doesn't have to be a bad thing. And I think the way we are now, like it's not a bad thing. And I think we were able to look at those some of the arguments we had and kind of talk about it. Right. Which I think was really healthy and beneficial.
I mean, you learn from things,
you learn from it. So we definitely learned from the show. And I think we've gotten to we're closer now than ever before.
Is there any areas where you feel like you've created so we talked about what you learned from the show. Is there any areas that you feel like on the show, maybe it's like now I wouldn't have made that same decision if it like hurt someone's feelings, or is there anything you guys wouldn't do today? Or do you think that the issue was context? Like, do you think that the issue was your relationship was sort of like put a spin on it, and like you guys really were doing things that were showing being caring and kind towards one another, and like what you would change is sort of how that was skewed and like showed to the audience, because that's fair as well.
I guess when you're filming, you're only shown so much of a relationship, so much of everything. But I
think that you felt everything you were doing was out of love. And I think that it was shown like the bad, like her reasoning for wanting me to do a Lamaze class. It was only shown like the small bits, but there was so much more. Or the reason she was standing up for me during the pool scene and was coming off in a certain way, but there was more to the story. So she does so much, I think, out of love. But I think maybe you learned, like we had talked about this, for example, when I'm with Jared's family, you don't have to always like say your feelings. Sometimes it's okay just like hush and then tell her privately. And that's something we've kind of discussed. And so we kind of learned about that. Like, I'm not going to bring it up then, but like we'll have this discussion together later. And I think that's,
that was helpful. That was helpful for me as well to just kind of think about how I approach things. Like always as a person, I'm looking to just make sure that others feel respected and more included, and just to treat people as well as I possibly can. So that situation kind of showed me like I can bite my tongue for a second. I can resurface this conversation later. And I've learned that as I got older too, like I don't have to make things awkward for other people just because I feel awkward or because I notice something, like maybe nobody else in the room noticed it. But that's hard for me because I do speak so frankly, and I just like, I don't like to be dishonest, and it, so I really relate to that. And I've been working on that as well. Yeah. Been less stress in your relationships? Like, how has life been since you stopped filming? Has it been a positive thing?
That's a good question.
I don't think we minded the cameras around us.
It's interesting because the cameras really aren't there like that much.
Right.
We probably filmed a total of like 3 weeks, I would say.
Oh, that's not bad.
So it's really not that much. Right. And so, which is why, so much of your life is like cut down into like
absolutely
such a small part. So they really don't film all the time. Everyone thinks it's like, your whole life is your whole year is being filmed, but it's such a small part. So we had fun with the cameras. We loved sharing our life with everybody. It just was going in a different direction for us. But I mean, it was fun.
Yes,
did Jared like it? Like, what about Jared and Mason? Like, did they like the cameras? Did they just have like indifferent? Like, what did they think?
They're not Love the cameras.
They weren't as much about that, but we have fun with it.
So that's what I was wondering. I'm like, I wonder if the husbands feel like a little bit less like walking on eggshells, or maybe even sharing their time, or maybe even like, who knows? But who was surprised that you moved to the farm, and what prompted you to want to have like farm life?
It's so funny. So now I moved from like I was living in the city or in apartments and condos, and finally we're in a house. And my dream, my whole life was to have a farm, was to have animals. I'm vegan. I love animals, and I didn't want to just like buy animals. I really wanted to try to rescue animals and get them from bad situations and show them, like, give them a good life and give them love. And like that's always been, you know, my dream. Always. And so luckily, like,
you're so cute.
And so we moved to this house. We've been, building this like farm life, and so it's been wonderful. And so far, I have 21 animals, which just go crazy because in July, it's like 2, and but now only a few months later, we have 21 animals that we rescued and have. And
actually, we went to an auction that was selling like rabbits and chickens, but they were selling them for food. So she's grabbing the biggest rabbit that was going like go higher and higher for the bid because she's getting this rabbit because I'm going to give it a good life. And of course, we won the bid.
Yeah. I'm not eating this rabbit.
No.
This big rabbit meat rabbit. I was like, no way. I'm gonna be the best life ever. Now he's
so happy, the rabbit now.
Oh, thank God you saved him. And thank God you have 21. I've seen some of the pig. Like I've been watching your farm reels. I saw the pigs. I saw rabbits. I think you have hens or something because you have chicks.
We have baby chicks. We have 3 baby chicks and 6 big hens. And and then we have 2 pigs. We got 2 tortoises.
Yeah, a cat and a dog.
Oh, so that's my dream as well.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah.
Yes, like always. Like my boyfriend said, like, Cher is living your dream life. I said, get ready. Like, get ready because we're going to the farm and I want like a sheep, some hens. I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
But today she says to me, "Oh, Mom, let me put the chickens on." It's okay.
It's so funny because when people meet me or they see me on the show and stuff, they're like, no one expects this. They're like, you're so girly. Like, you wouldn't want to get your hands dirty. Like, no one expects this at all. But this is really me. This is where my happy place is. And I love it. It keeps me busy. Like, there's so much to do. I have to be up early every morning, let the animals out, and like, it's a lot, but I love it. I love it so much. And
it's really her happy place.
Yeah.
And this is a show, I was going to say this, to me, you living on a farm and like Dawn was just saying, and this being like a difference, this just shows me that there was always room for independence. And 2, like you have your own identity that you're not like, feeling afraid to share. Like, it's not like if you are yourself, suddenly you guys won't be close. Like, she'll still come over to the farm, and like that's okay that you guys have differences because then it's something to connect over and be like, I want you to see how cool this is. Like, look at this.
Yes, it's so true. Yes, I love that you see that and that you said that because it really is true. And she's been so supportive. Like, she came with me to the auction and was helping me. Like, even though she's like, I'm like, Mom, you can't wear your heels today. You know?
It's so true.
But
I love it.
Yeah.
And what does Belle think? So does she like the farm? Does she love it?
Yeah, she loves the farm. She loves the animals. I don't know if she loves like the work that goes into it quite as much, but she does love she named every animal. Like, our pig is named Blue Raspberry. I was like, doesn't it name Blue Raspberry, the pig? Like,
I saw that.
Like, how did you come up with this? She gets to name all 21 animals. Like, she's loving it. I mean,
but it's good responsibility for her too, because now she has chores to do, and she's seeing that you have to take care of the animals and feed the animals and everything. So I think it's wonderful, a good experience for her. And actually, she got to see little eggs hatch and chickens come out of them.
I watched that.
Yes,
that was so beautiful. Usually you have to do stuff like that at school. Like usually you have to watch like you can't do that at home. That's so fun. That's my dream. Yeah. I think that's super cute. And also like we live in such an online digital society, and like granted, you still make like a little bit of content here and there, but it gives you this ability to disconnect and just like have your feet like in the grass, in the soil, just like be with your land and your animals and just not care about like the digital world, and let her grow up in that bliss of like nature too.
Yes, definitely.
Which is so really refreshing. So I want to talk a little bit about motherhood, because now you've been a mom for 5 years, right? 5? How old is Belle?
4.5. Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, I think that she was born in, was it 2019?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. So 4.5 years. What's been the most rewarding part of being a mother? And then for Dawn, what's the most rewarding part of being a Mimi?
Oh my gosh, being a mother is the best. I mean, she is my world. She's my everything. I love her so much. And just like seeing her smile, getting her hugs, like, oh, I love every bit of it. I love watching her grow up. I mean, I could go on and on about how special and wonderful she is and how wonderful it is to be a mom. I mean, it's the best.
I was very close to my grandparents, and to have that bond that I have with Belle, like, I would do anything for her. And like we're growing together. Like she loves us. She says we have playtime together.
No, it's so cute.
Play dates together. And like she talks to me, she'll tell me things, and I'll say, Cher, do you know this?
Yeah.
It's just, and what's the best is that I don't have to make any big decisions. That's Cher's decision. I get to love her and be with her and give her all the love and hugs and play with her, and she gets to do the dirty work.
Yeah, you get to bring over cookies, and Cher gets to say, no, you can't have those yet. We're having dinner. Yes. I remember in the beginning of season 1 that you were worried and a little bit uneasy, because it's like, what is the dynamic of Cher having a baby? Where will my place be? And it's so beautiful to see that you have your place. You guys are just as close, and like the three of you. Because Belle spends a lot of time with both of you, correct? I'm assuming Jared probably, yes. So Belle's like part of you guys now. Like she's like your triplet, like you guys said on the show. Yeah, she like you guys?
Like she always tells us, she's like, you look like Mimi. So cute.
Interests. Like, is she more similar to Jared, or is she more similar to you guys?
She's like very girly. Like I try so hard. I'm like, we're going out to like do stuff on the farm, and she's wearing like a dress. I'm like, oh, you should wear like pants and like a shirt. She only wears dresses. She only wears like sparkly shoes.
Yeah.
She's very girly, but she's also very independent. Like she wants to pick out her own clothes, do her own hair, do everything herself. And so sometimes I'm like, let's try this really cute bow. And she'll be like, no. So
I think Cher's a really good sport, because a lot of times Belle tells Cher what to wear, and sometimes Cher goes out with the craziest outfit. All picked it out. It's amazing.
She's like a director someday. She'll be like one of those people who like direct, a creative director. That's her. She's like, I know what you need to wear.
Yes, I always tell her that. I always call her the director.
Actually, she was just in a pageant, and she was the girl who was posing. I was, oh my gosh, we didn't tell.
Yes, I was not like a pageant mom. I never told her like what to do. I just wanted her to like have so much fun with it. I'm like, this will be so cute. Like I was like, it'll be so fun. Go out there, and she just like was like posing left and right, and like the cutest thing. And then she won like the whole overall pageant.
I saw that.
Yeah. We screamed so loud because we were like so shocked.
Yeah.
And Jared looked like he won the trophy. Like he was like glowing in that photo. Like he was like, yes, like she did it. Proud girl dad. Like that's my girl. Pose. No, he was probably the one who taught her those poses, like, like before, like since he had some time with her, he was like, so work it. Yeah. So So she does pageants. Does she have anything else that she does? Like, because she's 4.5, so she's like small. Like she probably just has life on the farm. Does she dance?
She goes to Shakes
I thought so. Okay.
And gymnastics. We tried. Jared wanted to put her in soccer. He's like, I'll coach it, and she's like, no, she only wants girly, very girly. Like I said, she helps out with the farm, and she's just
cute.
Wonderful. She loves art, and she's just a beautiful, beautiful.
And she loves playing Barbies with me.
I love it. Did you guys dance as girls too? Like, is that on brand for you?
He was
I was a dancer.
Oh yes, you were a cheerleader for what team? Can you remind me?
Yeah, I was the cheerleader for the Tampa Bay Lightning. It was like the ice hockey team, and so it was really fun. And so she's a little dancer now.
A little mini me. I love it. Because I remember seeing in one episode, there was a calendar and your cheer's on the back of the wall. And I'm like, she's professional. Like, I was like, it's like, it was giving like Dallas Cowboys. Like, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Is there anything else that you guys would like to clear up or anything that you guys would like to say in particular?
I think you did an awesome
job. Okay. Actually, it's never too late. I really believe this in my heart. It's never too late to create that relationship with your mom. You know, if you didn't have a relationship before, you could start now. Just start small and then just create your own. It's very rewarding, I believe.
Yeah, and people might think that our relationship is like too much or weird, but everyone can have their own relationship. And I think it's interesting because even when I watch Smothered, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, like that mom did that, like, or that wasn't nice. But you know what? To them, it's their normal. And to us, this is our normal.
Exactly.
And as long as, you're happy in your relationship and we're happy in ours, like that's all that really matters.
And start now.
I think you guys are inspirational. I think that people can take what they want and leave what they don't. And I don't think there's any reason that people should leave like negative comments or, judge people off of a relationship that makes them happy. I think one thing that I'll wrap with is I heard a therapist say something really interesting regarding Smothered. And he basically said, everybody has needs that they like actually need as a person to survive, and who we get those needs from, like love, validation, time, it really doesn't matter because it's different for certain people. And as long as there's boundaries, it's not a problem that we get that best friend like from our mother. You know what I mean? Like, while it may not be societally normal, or like most people might not have the freedom to do that, or they're just not as close, like there's nothing wrong with it. Like there's nothing wrong with that behavior. That's a sign of being very close and comfortable.
I totally agree.
I agree too.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Good. I think that's a good thing to end with. So make sure to listen to the Chattermouth podcast. Make sure to check out Dawn and Cher's YouTube channel. Send over a kind comment if you loved this episode. Look at their book. And again, right there, A Bond That Lasts Forever. Look into their book, especially if you want to repair or just improve your relationship with your mom and how to navigate those things. Thank you so much for both of you making the time today.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.